Okay, we're here with Dr. Lowe. Is it Dr. Gregory Lowe?
Dr. Gregory Lowe, right.
And tell me a little bit about your background, your schooling and so forth.
Well, I grew up in southern Indiana, went to Shelbyville High School. From there I went to Indiana University, studied psychology. From there I went to Ball State University, studied audiology. Then I went to Purdue for 4.5 years and obtained a PhD in audiology. And then around 2001 I went ahead and got a second doctorate, the AUD, from the Arizona School of Health Sciences.
Now when you say audiology, does that mean speech and hearing?
It's mostly the study of hearing disorders.
And you're a PhD, and what influenced you to go into this field?
2 courses I took in psychology at IU. The only 2 courses I really liked were sensation and perception and physiological psych. And in both of those classes we studied all the senses. And hearing and vision really interests me a lot. So I looked into maybe optometry and audiology, which is a fairly new field. And I thought that audiology would be a good one to go into because it was relatively new. And that's where it took off. I did some research at the library and decided that I'd like to help people hear better.
So the direction you went was mostly to help people with their hearing.
Oh, absolutely. Either hearing or vision, and I chose hearing.
And how long have you been practicing now?
I came here in December of '79, straight from Purdue University after I finished my PhD. So I've been practicing since December of '79. I was with a large ENT group for 16 years, decided I wanted to be able to control my own schedule, and opened up my own office in '95, May of '95. So I've been on my own since then. I love it.
And by your enthusiasm and what you say, you show that you love it.
I do love it. I like helping people, not only the people with their hearing loss, but their family members who are so thrilled that they can watch TV without it blaring in the background, or they ask them a question, they get an appropriate response. So I get just as much joy from listening to the family members after the person's been fitted as I do the person with the hearing loss.
So, I don't know if you ever kept track, but how many people do you think you've helped over the years?
Oh my, I don't know. We could thousands, but I couldn't really tell you exactly how many. I haven't been keeping count. A lot.
I am in the technical business myself a little bit, and our technology changes dramatically, almost yearly, sometimes almost weekly.
Yeah.
And I would speculate that the technology has really changed since you started practice.
Tremendously. We used to use a little small screwdriver on trim pots for tone control and output and gain. Those were not always very accurate. Now with the new digital technology we can be very, very precise. And I wish I had this technology 30 years ago, but it's come a long, long way.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Do you represent more than one manufacturer?
I use primarily Siemens, but occasionally I use Phonak, Resound, and Unitron. There's 5 or 6 really top companies out there. They're all very, very good. I've always enjoyed Siemens. They're a leader in the electronic industry, and I've used them for 20 years now, I think.
And is there any particular reason why you might choose one style over another, if the style is the right word, or technology for a patient than another?
Depends a lot on their manual dexterity. Some people want to wear those little tiny ones that go deep in the ear canal. The batteries are very small. They find out they can't handle them. Those aids will often make a person feel very plugged up and occluded. They're also not very sanitary. The ones that fit deep for extended period, they can cause abrasion in the ear canal and infections. So we go with aids that we feel are safe, but at the same time people can handle, and then are also inconspicuous. People don't want their hearing aids to be seen. And so with many of the newer hearing aids, even the small ones that go behind the ear, you can't see them. They're more comfortable, just much easier to maintain.
So the days of the big hearing aid that you see,
Right.
used to see, and people would take in and out are kind of gone.
Those are pretty much gone, right. Even with the larger behind the ear aids, you can conceal with your hair. And the new ear molds that fit in the ear are almost invisible. So they've come a long way for cosmetic reasons, yes.
Well, one thing that I'm impressed with is, I think I'm saying this right, that if your patient is not satisfied with the product when they first put it on,
Right.
you're glad to take it back and set it in and exchange it. Tell me a little bit
We
about
give
that.
everybody at least a 30-day trial period. We usually have people back in 2.5 weeks to check on them. And with the new hearing aids, we can do a readout. We can tell how many hours a day they've been wearing them and what programs they've been using. It also tells us what environments they've been in. So if they're in noise 90% of the time, but they're not using their noise program at all, that tells us we need to remind them they have a noise program. They should be using it. You know, they're paying for that technology. But everyone has a trial period. If they try one particular style first and it doesn't work out, we go to plan B. We just ask them to tell us that within about a 30-day period, then there's no problem with the exchange. So I rarely have had people go, 3 or 4 different types before they get it. We try to make them, lead them in a direction of something they're going to be successful with. And if we do a good job, they usually accept that. But if not, we go to plan B.
And now I heard you in that last conversation use the word program.
Right.
You actually program these things for people?
Well, the computer, the software technology on the computer programs the hearing aids right. So we type in their hearing test, and based on those thresholds, it determines the frequency response for each individual person. But then we can set up different programs. Some programs may have more noise reduction for noisy rooms than other programs. Most of them now have a newer feedback technology. Everyone's heard somebody's hearing aid whistling away in the church or in an elevator. The new hearing aids don't do that if they're programmed properly. They have feedback cancelers. But they're each programmed to the person's unique needs. They can have telecoils in some of the hearing aids if you have a compatible phone. A big thing now in Fort Wayne are the induction loop systems. We can give people a special program for induction loops, like in churches and movie theaters, if their hearing aid has a coil in it. So they know that in advance in deciding what hearing aid to, try. If they want induction loop, they have to get a hearing aid with a telecoil in it.
So let's kind of start at the beginning. I would imagine there's a lot of folks that hesitate to come because they might be embarrassed that they got to wear hearing aids.
Right.
And so kind of take us through the process. What is your first thing that you do, and how do you take them through the process until they walk home with some kind of aid?
Well, the first thing we do is look in their ears with a video camera, and they can see their ear on the TV if it's full of wax, and we try to clean that out. Then we do a pure tone hearing test, find out what frequencies they can or cannot hear. Then we do a word discrimination test, recognition test, to find out how well they can understand when speech is amplified, because that's what a hearing aid does. If their speech recognition is terribly poor, then they're not going to be as successful, and they'll have to rely more on lip reading. Then we show them all the different styles of hearing aids that are available and let them decide, but at the same time try to guide them. If there's a manual dexterity problem, like I said before, we try to steer them away from the smaller ones and the tiny batteries. Then we select the aid, have them in, do the hearing aid evaluation, we program them, show them how to use different programs, and we have them back about 2.5 to 3 weeks later and find out how they're doing. If they're doing great, we leave them alone. If they're not doing great, we try to figure out why. Is it because of that particular hearing aid's not going to work? Or we need to make changes in the program or remind them what to do in changing the programs using a remote control.
Are any of these tests that you do painful in any way, or?
Usually not. Sometimes cleaning the ear can be a little difficult and uncomfortable, but most of the things we do are totally painless. Yes.
And from the time that they walk in to the time they leave, what's the time period that they walk away with a device that they're satisfied with?
Well, the first test, we reserve an hour for new patients. Do the test, then we talk to them about the different hearing aids, order what they need. Sometimes we'll have them back in a day and a half. Sometimes if it's a custom order, it'll take more like 10 days. When they come back for the second visit, we have another 45 minutes to an hour to program the hearing aids, to show them how to use them. Then when we're sure they can handle them, we send them home. Then we have them back 2.5 to 3 weeks later to sit down and tell us what's going on, good or bad, and then we deal with it.
You keep using this word program. Does the patient actually go home with a program of some kind?
We usually write down what the different programs are. Now, some people only want one program. They want it simple, and we can do that. We can program it to be automatic, directional when they're in a noisy room. And what that means is when it's quiet, it picks up sound all around them. But when there's a lot of noise in the room, it switches to directional to reduce noise behind them. They want to sit in a position, like in a dining hall, they want to sit down with their back to most of the noise. Those people want more programs. We'll give them one for quiet, let's say, one for noise, like driving in the car or restaurants. If they watch a lot of TV, we give them a special TV program. Some people really like to listen to music through their stereos. There's a special program for that. And each one's set up differently through the software based on the research that the manufacturers have done. So with the music program, it gives them a lot more bass, but it turns off the noise reduction so that all notes are coming through, that none of the musical notes are canceled. So it depends on the person, what they want, and how much we think they can remember when they get home. But we write it down on a form so they know what each program is and they can go home and practice.
So what do they do, carry around a computer, or do you have a device that they
There's a
can...
little bitty remote control that they can carry. They can keep it in their pocket. We have a special lanyard they can put around their neck. You can wear it under your shirt. Most hearing aids you can change programs at ear level. Many of the hearing aids can communicate. One side can be for volume and the other side for program change. But if you're in church, most people don't want to reach up and make that change, so they just keep their remote in their hand. They turn volume up and down right there. Nobody knows they're doing it.
So I could reasonably say from the time I walk in, within 10 days, I'm going to walk out with
Yes.
something I can use that
You'll
will
be
make my
on
life better.
You'll be on your trial. That's exactly right. That's our goal, is to make life more enjoyable, not only for the person wearing the hearing aids, but their family members. I get more comments from the family members sometimes than I do the actual patient, because they don't realize how much better they're hearing. But you ask the family, oh yeah, the TV volume's down. We can talk to him across the room, and he actually answers us the first time. So that, they're very happy, most of the time.
Yeah. Let me just ask, and you might be involved in this, but I see some people with hearing implants. Do you get involved in that at all?
Not really, no. No, those are usually go through the larger ENT groups. I'm not involved in surgical procedures, and hearing aids are implanted, no.
Okay, so if somebody had that need, you'd refer them to...
I would refer them to their probably primary care physician and let them decide which ENT they would want to send them to. Right now there's one big ENT group here in town with many fine ENTs, so you would start there and then maybe they'd end up in Indianapolis possibly for a special surgery.
I understand we have a patient here today that we're going to talk to, and that you fitted for a device. And
Mrs. Joan McAllister, right. She came back today for a trial period. I think she's doing great. We'll let her tell her story and see what she thinks. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.